times. There's a pro tip. So anyone that's watching this, try this shit out and let me know if it works. Follow me at Phillip Trujillo. So do this. Let's say it's a dating app scenario or even messaging, Facebook, DM, whatever. I will give my number to the person first.
Oh, I see. I do that too.
If they text me, I say, hey, let's go grab coffee. Here's my number. Shoot me a text. Let's set it up. If they text me, instantly you know that individual is assertive.
Yep.
You know that they have,
and they're willing to pursue it further because
they had correct. They had the gusto to text you first. They had the gusto to say something, right? If they don't text, I'll never text.
Yeah. All right, today's guest is Phil. We've had a few interactions here and there through social media, and I really wanted to have him on because he seems to have a very interesting way of thinking, and not just from like a lifting perspective, it also involves like social perspective, interpersonal relationships perspective, and just how to be able to freely live your life without any restrictions. So I'm going to start with the introduction. Hello, Phillip. Is it Phillip?
What's up, brother? How are you? First of all, I greatly appreciate you having me on. When you reach out to me and you're like, hey, man, you want to be on my podcast? Number one, like, as a fitness person, you're someone that I look up to. So when you reach out to me and ask me if I want to be on your podcast, I'm like, fuck yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So first of all, man, I greatly appreciate you. Super grateful and much gratitude for you having me on.
Definitely, dude. And I like having people like you on. Though my main goal is to just get like, it doesn't matter. They don't have to be like someone that's super popular. I just get people to be able to like look at other people's perspective and kind of understand like why they started what they did, where they came from, and all that stuff.
Definitely.
So starting with you, how'd you get involved all into like the whole lifting thing? What's your story?
So I was in and out of various sports as a kid, but I was never good at any of them. So, so I do not have, I compete in men's physique right now, and I competed in CrossFit for a long time as well, but I do not have athletic genes. Any sort of athleticism that I have now, or any sort of, physique, or even the CrossFit ability, that's all been through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah. Like I said, I was into a lot of different sports as a young kid, but I was never good at any of them. And then once I got a little bit older, early 20s, to be completely honest, it was a better physique that I was desiring. And so mainly because I was single.
That always seems to be the case.
Yeah, I was single and in the military, and I was I've been very observant of my surroundings, I feel like, my whole life, and especially once I was in the military. That's something they teach us, to be observant and or vigilant, rather, and I was like looking around, I'm like, all right, cool, like there's, just like anything else, right? Like bodybuilding, there's a process to this. There's a reason that certain people excel in things. Now, obviously genetics play a big role in how you appear, but the thing that I saw is I was like, man, a lot of the guys that are having the best, quote, luck with the ladies also happen to have a pretty good physique. So just to be completely honest, man, the reason I started training any sort of hypertrophy stuff in general was just to have a better physique.
Yeah, which totally makes sense. And usually what I've also realized, the guys that do tend to have the best luck with how they look don't really know how to interact with women.
Yeah. Which, here's the thing. So I was talking, or I've said this to my circle of friends, and particularly my roommate. Her and I have lots of deep discussions often. So both of my parents are really, really short. Yeah. And like I told you before we started the interview, I was obese until I was about 13, 14 years old. So as a young kid, even, as soon as I started getting interested in girls at a really young age, I knew in my mind, I'm like, okay, like, I'm going to be at some disadvantages here. I'm really short. I'm this chubby little fucking kid that's kind of aggressive, and you know what I mean? Like, not everyone likes that stuff either. So like, I'm going to have to figure something out. So I'm going to have to learn how to communicate with women or with girls at the time, right? With girls, if I'm going to get anyone's attention. And so doing two things, just saying fuck it and talking to people that I wasn't necessarily comfortable talking to anyway, helped out a lot. And the other thing was learning how to spin things into comedy. You know what I mean? So
that's always good. That's definitely
Yeah, a little banter here and there, a little shit talk with the friends, and it kind of just became this cyclical thing. Every day we'd be walking home from school and it's just like who could rip each other the most, and that helps with your social ability, but it also helps with the ability to make a situation funny, which can help for multiple reasons.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, like looking back how old are you?
I'm 35.
Looking back when you were younger or I was younger, that social banter and is something that we all kind of take pride in doing, because like you can kind of just like bust your friend's balls off, talk to girls witty and bantering. But like nowadays you try to do that, it's like no.
Yeah, you have to. You can. I think you can get it. I mean, obviously it depends on the situation, right? Everything depends on the scenario. You can get away with a lot of that if you know how to spin it in there correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I got really good at doing that because I was, like I said, as a young kid, I didn't have luck, air quotes luck, with ladies until I was like in my late 20s, and so I always had this mentality of like, how do I talk to the hottest girl in the room, without getting completely shut down? And so it was always some sort of comedic in, Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's pretty good. That's also I've learned that in my later years.
Right.
I didn't know how to do any of that when I was like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-ish. It was just like a year or two, and I'm like, okay, there's ways to talk to people here and there that's very effective. Because I was always just so focused on just like going to the gym, working out, doing school, working, and all that stuff. I never really had that like, hey, I've never been that much of a person that like went out as much, because it just hasn't, like I was just focused on other stuff. You growing up, you seem like a very social individual. When you were younger, were you also very social as well?
I think so, because I have a half sister, but my parents were never together. So I was, regardless of which household I was in, I was always surrounded by adults. And I appreciate both of my parents for this, but they didn't baby me. It was like you either learn how to hang with the conversation or take your ass in another room kind of deal. You know what I mean? And so I think being just humans, right? Like we want to belong to the group. And so in my opinion, like I wanted to belong to the group, and the group at the time for me were adults most of the time, especially when I was with my dad. I lived with my dad from, very young until about 12 years old, just my dad. And that's, it was just he and I, and he had obviously all adult friends. And so if I wanted to hang out, like I had to learn how to hang, I had to learn how to talk shit and be social and kind of interact with them. So I think it really helped my social ability now and later on in life, because I was forced to be social.
Yeah, in that situation.
Right.
Like I said, nowadays it's just like social interactions a little bit like non-existent based on internet, computers, text, and mobiles and all that stuff. It's like it's really hard to get like people's attention or have like hold like a proper conversation. And I think that's probably like one of the worst things we have going on in our generation.
It is crazy. It is definitely a crazy thing. I try to not necessarily force, but I do force a lot of conversations onto people, especially people that serve us. So like, if you go to a restaurant and someone's serving you, or a cashier, at the grocery store, convenience store, whatever, I try to, not just be on my phone or texting or whatever and slide the card and move out. I was like, hey, how's your day? How are you? How things been? Are you staying safe and sane especially like during this time, right?
Yeah.
Because you never know. And I feel like that's not only is it added value to you, because you could create a connection with someone, and you don't know what someone either has to offer you or what you can offer to someone. So I try to start those conversations, even if they're very minuscule, they're very tiny, and you don't even see them as value adding. I try to start those conversations all the time, but it helps because like I visit a lot of the same stores. I go to a lot of the same stores. Hey, that kind of deal. Or if you ever need an extra bag, or you forgot something or whatever, like building those small relationships has a large carryover, I think, more often than we realize.
So what was it like growing up? Would you say it was difficult for you, or was it not difficult? And did you find
So here's the thing though, right? Like I feel, especially now, I feel like it's a very popular thing for people to have had a rough childhood. But I think there's a difference between having a rough childhood where mom and dad were a doctor and a lawyer and they didn't pay much attention to you.
Yeah.
And then a rough childhood where you grew up in the hood and you saw wild shit go down, you know, and you come from a broken home and, you know what I mean? You drive-by shooting. Like, there's a distinct difference between a hard childhood and someone not getting paid attention to as a kid, but they grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth, and a hard childhood where a lot of crazy shit happened. So I will never just openly tell someone like, oh yeah, I had a rough childhood. But if they're willing to listen, I'll explain, because I definitely had a lot of, you know, wild things happen. Like I said, I lived with my dad until I was 12 years old. I was taken from my dad when I was 12 years old because that was his second attempt at suicide with me around. The first time I found him, second time, my mom was like, you know, she wasn't super involved, but she cared enough to be like, yo, we need to get you out of this environment. And so there was a lot of, I don't want to say it was a rough childhood, but there was a lot of things that I think kids, especially, you know, because I live in the burbs, I live in suburbia, right? Like, the kids that are in this environment would have no fucking clue how to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
You're in Philly, right?
I live a little bit outside of Philly. I'm in a little bit like the suburbs area.
Okay.
Growing up, my mom always tried to have me avoid from going to the hood or going to like places like that. I never really hung out with like a lot of black individuals because she always tried to steer me away from that. I was born in Africa.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was born in Africa and I came here in 2002. And if I recall, the one thing that she always says is like, don't be like those other black people that are in America. That's
really
what my mom told me.
Damn. That's wild. Here's the thing, man. Like, I until, I'm trying to think when my dad and I moved. So until like 10 years old, the kids in my neighborhood were predominantly black. Now, mind you, we're in Northern California. So even, you know, it's just like any other culture, right? You go to the South, the culture is a little bit different in the South. You go to the Northeast, the culture is a little bit different in the Northeast. In Northern California, the culture is different as well. So I think apart from, you know, all racial stuff aside, it was just, you know, we were kind of all in the same environment, in the same system, going to the same schools, you know, and there was three predominant races. We have a lot of what are they, Laotians, so from Laos, like Cambodia area, Laos area. The religion is Hmong. Super cool fucking people, super cool culture, but you know, not a lot of money in that culture for a lot of people, you know, kind of the same deal where we were. I'm Hispanic, you know, I'm Mexican and Spaniard, not a lot of money where we're at, you know, and the black folks in our community, same thing. You know, I live in a street where all the housing across the street from us was all Section 8, you know what I mean? So it's all lower income housing. The area that I lived in, I mean, yeah, it's Northern California, but not everywhere in California is Los Angeles or San Diego, you know what I mean? So it's different up this way.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think in like every major country or states, especially in America, there tends to be a little bit more areas where it's like it's a lot richer, not as rich, and there's like the version of it which most people consider as the ghetto.
Right.
Growing up, I was told something different, like don't hang around with all the black kids and everyone and stuff like that. I mean, I did do what she said. But at the same time, you also have to be able to think for yourself and understand that, like, not everybody has the exact same situation as you, and you have to be able to like, look around, learn to see what traits to take, learn to see the people around you, how to act, and stuff like that. And, as I'm older now, I kind of understand the struggle that the black community faces.
100%.
Like the struggle that most people who are not from that particular area would try to undermine like where they're from. They're always just like, oh, you're in there, so you're always like this and this, you're like shooting and stuff like that. But they don't understand like the hardship and like what goes down in those particular neighborhoods, that they tend to just like neglect everything. Because again, these are people who've never once been to that particular area to kind of like understand what is going on. Instead, they're looking from like an outside perspective. And that gives like a skewed point of view, a skewed perception of like what it really is like in there, and they can never like be empathetic towards it because they just don't get it.
No. So I agree 100%. And to even take that even a little bit further, moving from, so where my mom and my dad lived as kid, you know, when I was a kid, was just over the bridge. It's two different cities. One city's on one side of the bridge, the other city's on the other side of the bridge. Literally 10 miles between their houses. But the environment and the types of people and the way that those environments were looked at was like night and day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like a wrong side of the tracks, air quote, wrong side of the tracks thing, but it wasn't. Because if you tell people, like, the city that I originally grew up in is Marysville, California. And so if you tell people, like, oh, I'm from Marysville, it's just, even now, like, even to this day as an adult, people are like, oh shit, you know, like, you kind of get this sideways type look, right? It's kind of like if you say, oh yeah, I'm from downtown Phillip. You know what I mean? It's like almost an automatic assumption, right? Like, oh shit, like that kind of deal. Yeah. And it's funny because the other city that my mom lived in it's not a nice city, but it's like one rung up. You know what I mean? It's not the ghetto, and it's definitely not like upper middle class by any means, but it's like lower middle class, you know, for whatever reason. I feel like both cities are lower middle class. Yeah. But for whatever reason, it was still like a rung up, you know? So like the kids where I was from that I was still friends with, when I moved to Yuba City, they're like, oh, you live in Yuba City now? Like, I got shit. You know what I mean? It was like, it was like escape the ghetto type feeling that I would get from my friends. I'm like, yeah, I moved with my mom, bro. My dad's fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's, and you're absolutely right that people that judge those environments, even if they visit those environments, it doesn't matter. You have to live in those environments to understand that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the interesting part. Like, speaking of that, now we talk about like people judging others before fully understand who they are or where they came from. When you started training, started getting to like lifting and stuff like that, did that have a significant impact of how people view you as a person?
I don't think it did initially, because just to be completely honest, bro, it probably didn't even look like I worked out for like the first 5 years I was working out. Yeah, like I have, like I said, I don't have great genetics, and back like way back in the day, because I probably started, I would say, bodybuilding style training like probably around 2003, 2004. You know what I mean? And then stepped away from it and did some powerlifting, did some CrossFit, and then came back to it like in 2017. But you know, I had even friends of mine that would tell me like, yo, if we didn't know that you go to the gym all the time, I wouldn't even know you at the gym. You know, like that's fucked up, right? Yeah. So I think at 21 years old, man, I was 140 pounds, 139 pounds at my lightest, right? I'm almost 6 foot tall. I'm like 5'11" and a half. Yeah. Yeah. So I was like almost on the verge of anorexia. I was in the military at the time, so luckily I had some good leadership that kind of got a hold of me, and they're like, yo, we heard you don't eat. And they allowed me to. Yeah, well, because I did it, man. I was probably eating like 800 calories a day because, like I said, I came from being an obese kid. And so I had this mentality of I don't want to eat because I don't want to get fat again. You know what I mean? Like my worst nightmare was getting fat again. And I was so scared to get fat that I just didn't eat. You know, if I told you what I ate back then right now, especially because I know you and I both know a lot about nutrition, like you would be shocked, bro. Like 800 calories a day we're talking like years on end.
Oh, geez, wow. That is
pretty... like, you know, 800 calories a day for 5 to 10 days in a row and then a binge. You know what I mean? Like insanity, dude. Insanity. Definitely not good. And I'm sure that had, not only did it have an impact on my metabolic rate in general, but I'm sure it had a huge impact on, you know, my hormonal profile and everything, you know, because I had a lot of issues, dude, when I first started eating correctly again and like actually diving into nutrition hardcore. I had some things that I had been dealing with for a long time that cleared up. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So back to the original point, when I first started working out, no one really looked at me any different because no one really even knew. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was when I started putting on some size, and probably when I started powerlifting. Because when I started powerlifting, I was competing in 198, so 90 kilo class, but I wanted to compete at 181 or 220 because I saw that there was some records that I wanted to try. I had a pretty big deadlift, so I was trying to hit some of those. Yeah. And so I was like, let me try to snag this 220. I was competing in the IPA at the time. Let me try to snag this 220 record. And so as I started put on some size, that's when I started getting like the meathead stuff. You know what I mean? I would get the meathead comments and you know, obviously the steroid comments come and, you know, those kind of deals, those kind of things. And here's the thing. It didn't help the case that I was in the military at the time too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the military and I'm tattooed, right? And like, I don't think I have like a mean face on or anything, but people always tell me like, you look so serious. I'm like, just have a conversation with me. Trust me. I'm not
Yeah,
serious.
exactly. Just
Yeah, just have a conversation with me.
Yeah, I like hated that because like when people would like try to like have a conversation with you, it's always like, how much do you bench? How much do you lift? Do you work out 5 days a week? It makes you feel stupid because it makes it seem like the only thing you could possibly ever like talk about to people is working out, but they never like move further than that. It almost makes it seem like they judge you from like a point where they feel like you're insecure and you have nothing better to offer or talk about than just how much you lift. But 9 out of 10 times, they're the one who's like inciting that.
I would say I think it's the opposite. When people come to me and the only thing they can talk about is my fitness, I think it's something on them. I especially see this with like friends of mine or acquaintances rather, like not people that are in my like circle because they know. Yeah. But I see this a lot with like, let's say people that know I do nutrition consulting or know I do preps for people or whatever. And then, I'll go to a barbecue or a house party or something where there's a group of people around and people will make comments to me like, oh, don't watch me eat this. Like that kind of deal. Like, bro, you're not my client. I don't give a fuck what you eat. You know what I mean? And number one, I'm probably going to eat the same thing in a minute. The difference is I track the shit. That's the difference.
Yeah, it's even worse when you go on dates. It's like they're like insecure about like the way that they eat. They're like get salads all the time.
Oh yeah. I've kind of alleviated that because I've got a pretty good system down for dating. I'm super jaded. Like I only want to date specific type of people. So normally, if we're going on a date, that part's already been vetted out. Like I don't have to worry about this person thinking I'm a crazy fitness person.
Yeah. You definitely got to teach me how to do that because I seem to have that issue. I have to like kind of get them to the point where they're just like really comfortable to be able to do that. Usually I just tell them, hey, listen, I eat whatever I want. Don't use me as your guideline.
Right. Yeah.
That's guideline.
Yeah, and like I know, right? And especially because like when when you're in that position, right? You can eat whatever you want. Let's eat whatever we want. Maybe don't eat as much as I'm going to eat, but you can eat whatever you want. Yeah, that's fine. Maybe it's your source though. Maybe we'll talk about that later. But I think the easiest way is narrowing down the pool of where you're pulling dating from.
That could potentially work.
I pretty much don't. I try not. I'll never say never, but I don't really date people outside of the fitness realm. They have to be into some sort of fitness, not just from an aesthetic standpoint. But like being on prep, right? Like being on prep, we're doing a show. It's while it's a very selfish thing, right? It doesn't have to be. If someone understands that you're making a sacrifice for your sport, your business, your future, those kind of things, right? I look at it as the same way as like someone that works 60 hours a week.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's kind of the same deal, right? Like I would never I'll say never, but I have, but I won't going forward. I won't put myself in a position to where I'm working 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week. Like I did that a lot. I know that doesn't make me happy, so I'll never do that again. But for some people, they love their job and they want to be there all the time and that's their thing. It's kind of the same deal, right? Like just because not you, but other people would view being on prep or restricting, your calories or your nutrition in general or training, 90 minutes a day, 2 hours a day, whatever you train as being, what is the term that people obsessed, right? I look at this, like people that work 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week the same way. Like, and I think that's probably more to their detriment, because a lot of those people that are working that many hours don't even like what the fuck they're doing. At least when we're training and dieting, like there's a very clear,
there's a purpose for it. You're not just like autonomous.
Correct. There's a very clear goal that you can see, right? A lot of people that are working all these hours and that are almost obsessed with their work don't really have a why. Like I'll ask them, like, why do you do that? If you fucking hate your job, like, why do you do that? Like, I got bills and shit. I'm like, yeah, but what's the why? Like, what's the why behind all of it? Like, to pay bills? Get rid of your fucking bills. Like, pay shit off. Stop living outside your means.
Yeah, exactly. And in America, that is actually the biggest problem for a lot of people.
It's crazy, bro. Crazy. I did it myself, so I know how crazy it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's completely insane.
They don't teach you about money where most of us grow up. You know what I mean? Like I was not fortunate enough to have anyone to set me down and said, hey, don't get yourself into a crazy amount of debt by the time you're 25 and owe a bunch of people hundreds of thousands or getting thousands and thousands of dollars. Then take you a long time to fix that shit. Like I wish someone would have just pulled me aside and told me that, you know, live well
if they did,
your
it
means.
wouldn't really make them any money.
This is true. But I'm talking like parents or somebody though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they can't really tell you that because they themselves didn't really know the information and they can't really pass it down to you. So like later on in years, and they're just like, okay, you're supposed to do this, this, and that. But like they never really like fully sit you down and just be like, hey, listen, son.
Yeah.
To learn how to manage your money.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head, man. People don't tell you that because everyone is living outside of their means. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like it's the normal thing for people to do. And
yeah.
It's extremely strange.
Nuts.
You did talk about the idea that you were it's not even an idea at this point. It's like you talked about being overweight and being anorexic. For us in the fitness industry or in the fitness community as a whole, a lot of us face that, but I've noticed that it's something that's just never talked about, like body image disorder, eating disorder, psychological disorder of like certain like not looking at what you want to be or feel however you want to be. When you were the overweight kid, how did that make you feel? And then from being overweight to transitioning down to the skinny kid, what are the feelings and the emotions that you experienced during those two transitions?
So it's absolutely horrible. So growing up as an overweight kid, it's, you know, I probably don't even need to say this, but it destroys your self-esteem. Destroys your self-esteem. I think that's probably where a lot of my aggression came from. It's why I was just a hyper aggressive, you know, from a young kid to a teenager to a young adult. I was extremely aggressive, and I think a lot of that had to do with the lack of love for myself. You know, I had such a hate for myself because I felt like, and here's the other thing, just like we were talking a minute ago about the money management thing, I had people in my ear, family members, people that I respected very highly, telling me like, yo, this is in your genes.
Yeah.
This is in your genes. This is just how it is. You know, it's definitely not because we eat carbohydrates and fat day and night, all day, every day. And there's, you know, snacks readily available night and day. And if you refuse food, it's like you're being rude. You know what I mean? Like it was just an extreme caloric overconsumption that was masked because everybody in my family was overweight. That was masked by genetics, like people saying this is a genetic thing. And I couldn't get over the fact that like, it can't be it. That can't be it. You know, to me, I wouldn't fucking buy it. I was like, this can't be it. This can't be the end all. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be like that. And what I started seeing, you know, obviously the girls thing is I started getting interested in girls. That's why I wanted to first start losing weight. But then as a teen, I started seeing, you know, my grandma got really, really sick. 100% diet and lifestyle related diseases. She died. She passed away from it. You know what I mean? My favorite person on the planet passed away because of her nutrition and her lifestyle. Sedentary, lots of fast food, high fat, high carbohydrate diet. You know what I mean? Absolutely no physical activity whatsoever. And so once I started seeing that, to me, it seemed like a no-brainer. You know what I mean? I was like, I need to lose weight. And for two reasons. Number one, because it's hard to get girls when you're the fat kid. And number two,
it's gotta be funny.
And I don't want to be sick. I don't want to die. Everyone in my family started getting, you know, diabetes. And I don't even know what this is. I'm just like, oh shit, they got to jab themselves with a needle or take these pills for the rest of their life now. Like, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I saw my aunt, my uncle, my grandma, I saw all these people getting sick. And I'm like, fuck, that's the last thing I want to do. The problem with that, there was no nutrition education. No one knew what the right answer was. I watched my mom and my aunt yo-yo diet, you know, and they would never, it's not like they ever would make a lot of progress. They would lose maybe 5-10 pounds. And then you've probably seen this with tons of people too. They would rebound right back because the habits never change. Their lifestyle never changes, right? They have a very short period of time where there's this golden carrot they're trying to get after. But then once that carrot's not there anymore, there's no lifestyle or habit change.
Yeah.
So it goes right back. So I didn't know any better. I was like, okay, how do I lose this weight? What does my mom do? What does my aunt do when they're trying to lose weight? And I'd ask my mom, and I was like, okay, well, you got to eat fat free. You got to eat lower fat stuff, because in the 90s, like in the late 90s,
that was the big thing.
Low fat was still kind of big, right? The low carb thing didn't come in until the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And so I was like, fuck it, I just won't do that. So I was eating tuna and fat-free mayonnaise with mustard and having like a packet of oats in the morning with some cinnamon and Splenda on it, and like wouldn't eat dinner most of the time, like just extremely, extremely low calorie. And I started losing a lot of weight really, really fast. So I thought I was on the right path. That got to the point where at 21 years old, I'm 139-pound male. Almost 6 foot tall. So I don't know how tall you are, but
I'm pretty short.
Okay. Yeah. So, but you, I mean, imagine your body weight right now. So could you imagine like 30 or 40 less pounds on you? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't even like dare to think about that. I've always just thought the idea of like a grown adult male being at least like a really, really low weight is a little bit unhealthy, because I mean, you're supposed to be like an adult masculine male.
Right.
It's just like, I'm not like trying to jab at anyone, but just not someone that just doesn't eat, doesn't like take care of themselves and all that stuff.
Correct.
But again, people don't really know the proper nutrition to get themselves to that point, and they were never taught how to.
Yeah. It is. It's very interesting. So once I got to that point where I was, I had lost a lot of weight, I went too far. So I was, on one hand, I was big as a kid, had a lot of high body fat, definitely a lot of health issues because of it as well. They thought I had asthma. I had all this stuff that they didn't know where it was coming from, and guaranteed it was just all diet and lifestyle related stuff while I was still active, air quote active. It's just like I tell my clients, right? You will never, ever out-train, out-work out shitty nutrition. You won't. And that's lifestyle as well, especially once we're adults. A lot of people drink a lot of alcohol. I tell people, I'm like, you will never outrun that. You will never outrun that stuff. I don't care if you still have abs and you're shredded and all that. Drinking is not good for you from a health standpoint. You know what I mean? Yeah. And especially as I'm 35 years old, especially as I get older, a lot of that stuff is very important to me, and that carried over from being a young kid and realizing this. Not only did I not want to be unhealthy from an aesthetic standpoint, a physical standpoint, I want people to look at me and be like, that motherfucker looks healthy, but from an actuality standpoint as well, I wanted to be as healthy as humanly possible. I stopped drinking alcohol 5 years ago. I mean, I have probably in the last couple of years, I had, a glass or two of wine here and there. Yeah. And maybe like a half a beer or a beer total in the last, 5 years. Yeah. So I think it makes a huge difference for me, and especially as I get older, I tend to date people younger. So I got to try to look young.
Yeah. It's kind of like trying to look that young. So.
Yeah. Yeah. You probably got good aging genes, bro. I'm telling you.
Dude, I'm only 25. I'm still pretty young.
That's what I'm saying, though. You probably got good aging genes. That's two things that I know a lot of folks that have African descent, and a lot of folks that have Hispanic descent. That's like my mom. My dad passed away, but my mom is, in her 50s, and I show people pictures of her, like, damn, your mom looks young. I'm like, I hope that shit carries over. I hope that carries over to me.
I think that also has a lot to do with dieting, and the fact that like people in those countries, I wouldn't really say they're not necessarily like first world. So There's a lot of like lack of nutrition and a lot of movements, a lot of moving around, a lot of going to school and walking to school. Because I remember when I was a little kid in Africa, I'd have to walk like 2-3 miles just to
What country you come from, bro?
Sierra Leone.
Okay.
It's a little bit on the west coast of Africa. But
Got
I remember just being a little kid and having to like walk to school at like 5 years old. It was insane. Just like walking back and forth. And I mean,
what was the distance, you think, if you had to guesstimate?
I never remember it, to be honest, but I would say it was pretty far. I can't remember, because I remember I'd walk like a while just to get there. I mean, there's transportation, but like, so my story with that is like, just like how you're from like with the whole city thing. You're in the good part of the city, and then you're also close to the bad part of the city. For me, my mom was a Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
So she was all into like that whole Muslim religion and stuff like that. She prayed. But the side of my mom's family, it was basically like your typical, you would watch like YouTube videos and stuff like that. It would be like living in a hut, living like in like stone buildings and stuff like that, like cooking the typical stuff that you would see on like on TV when it comes to projecting what Africa really looks like. I mean, that's not all of it, obviously, but that is like some parts of just like how it's like the ghetto doesn't really define all of America.
Correct.
But there's a certain group, there's certain like mini sectors of that that's part of America as well. But in my case, there's that part of it. And on my dad's side, I basically lived with my aunt. I would kind of like go back and forth between where, because my mom was like working. I rarely ever saw my mom as much, and rarely ever saw my dad because.
See, that goes back to what we were talking about with prep, right? Always at work.
Mm-hmm.
At least prep, you're at the house.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it was just,
you might be hungry and irritable, but you're at the house.
Yeah, and it was always just interesting to see because like it's like on my dad's side, it's like a really like upscale living where there's like TV, there's like electricity. You get to be like, they're Christian, so you get to read the Bible every day, set up dinner and stuff like that every day. And it was just like it was interesting learning those two dynamics because growing up, I kind of was able to realize like you don't necessarily have like people in life don't have like all of everything. There's always like there's always certain things that they're missing, and teaches you like the value of like appreciating less. Where with less, when you understand what it's like to have less, you don't really need to go for more. Which goes back to the conversation of that living out of your means or beneath your means or a little closer to your means.
Yeah,
you like learn all that, understanding from that perspective.
Oh, bro, I love where you're going with this conversation. I love it. And I'll tell you why, but I love it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I learned how to like do all that. It's like even right now, I'm very simple. I just have the basic necessities. I have a car. I do have TV, but I barely ever watch it. I don't want to buy like super ridiculous expensive cars. I've never been into cars because I'm just like, hey, if you get me from point A to point B, I'm cool with it. And And I usually don't particularly ask for much because I know what it's like to be in an environment where you have nothing, and then also be in an environment where you have everything. But now imagine living in Africa and then coming to America where you have the chance to have everything.
Right. And here's the thing though, right? That everything, right? We say everything. Is that a first though too? I just washed, I went to the bathroom and washed my hands without taking my
what the fuck? Oh, that's crazy.
So check this out, bro. So what I was saying, I love where you're going with that is I because this has been a topic for me a lot lately, is about how everything is relative, right? So for example, when I was younger and in the military, I also built race cars as a side hustle.
Yeah.
Was in the front wheel drive drag cars. Did that as a side hustle. And it was good. I made a lot of money doing it, tuning some cars as well. And I was making money in the military as well. And so from a very young age, financially, I set myself up with a certain bar. You know, I did pretty good financially at a young age. And I set myself with this certain comfort level in this certain bar. You know, and I kind of carried that through my military career. I left the military in 2014 and I opened a gym. I've been a business owner since 2011. Nice. But in 2014, I opened, or 2015 rather, I opened a brick and mortar gym. And, you know, it's like any other business. You have to grow it and put a lot of money into it, put a lot of time, a lot of effort. And so long story long, I had this discussion with a lot of people lately, but I've been saying that happiness is relative. And the examples that I give is I set this bar of happiness. We're talking about financial stability or happiness here, but you can use any marker you want or any metric you would like. Yeah. At a certain level. So when you dip below that level, to some people, that could be living in abundance, right? So for example, you said someone coming from Africa in a village living in a hut, right? Let's say they go to downtown Philly, you know, and they live in a 3-story building in a one room, you know, a studio type apartment, very minimal living. To them, that's like hitting the fucking lottery.
Yeah. Speaking of,
you know what I mean?
That's usually
it's like hitting the lottery. And with all of that said, and so that was the example I use for, because sometimes, you know, I battle with depression. I get down on myself about business stuff because I may not be doing as well as I want to or as I expect to. If I launch a product and it flops, you know what I mean? It's hard on me. It's rough on me. And I try to explain to people, they're like, well, you're good though. Like, you have money on hand. I don't have any debt. I have no bills, no debt, none of that shit. And people are like, well, you're good though. Everything's taken care of. I'm like, yeah, but there's a difference between being good and thriving. You know what I mean? I don't want to just get by. I want to get mine. You know what I mean? And there's it's all relative. That happiness and the success level is all relative, and it's relative. It could be, you could put that on anything. You know what I mean? I put that on like with dating, right? I could not just go to the bar and you know, have a great conversation with some girl or whatever, and then pick her up, and I find out that she has no idea about anything fitness related. To me, we're going to have such a disconnect on such a big portion of my life that it's not worth it. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's not worth it. I'm not saying that's not right or that it's right or wrong. That's just the way that I go about it. But it's for me,
personal preference in a way.
Yeah, it's a personal preference. I avoid that whole scenario in general so that I don't have to take my happiness level down. You know, I know right off the bat that there are certain things that make me happy about other people, you know, or, you know, someone I want in my life that makes me happy about them. Those are the people that I'm going to go for. I'm going to gravitate towards in general. I'm not going to take myself down to, or not even down, but just to another level that it's not going to make me happy. And the example that I used in a larger scale is, you know who Robin Williams is?
Yeah.
Okay. So Robin Williams, right? A lot of people don't understand why movie stars, you know, actors, actresses, extremely financial people, people like Anthony Bourdain. Do you know who he is? Okay, so Anthony Bourdain, people like that, people don't understand. They can't fathom, well, this guy's rich. Why would he kill himself? I'm like, you got to understand though, right? Like, the reason I use Robin Williams is because he's a comedian, always super happy, always outgoing, really high energy, this and that. Think about this. When Mrs. Doubtfire, let's say, that's like his most successful film. I'm not 100% certain on that. I think it is, right? Because that was when, in my opinion, he was most popular, was when that film came out. So when Mrs. Doubtfire came out, Robin Williams couldn't walk down the street without being mobbed by the paparazzi. You go walk into the store, everyone knows who you are, wants a hug, wants a joke, wants an autograph, wants all this, right? But after that movie, he didn't do a whole lot. So what happens when it's 5, 6, 7 years down the road, and now all of a sudden you can walk into Whole Foods, you can go to the movie theater, you can walk into the mall, and not only does no one know who the fuck you are, right? No one's asking for your autograph. You're maybe not doing even what you love to do anymore, right? You might not even got any movie gigs. I don't know what his last movie was. But imagine that, bro. Especially if that's what made you happy, the notoriety, the fame. I'm not saying it is, but could you imagine if the fame, if having that sort of interactions where you can't even go outside without being mobbed because people just love you, and then all of a sudden he walks down the street like you or I, and no one even cares.
That could hit you really hard.
Can you imagine? So that's why I'm telling people, like, I have no idea why he killed himself. I'm like, I fucking know exactly why. Yeah, that's like if tomorrow I woke up and looked like I did at 21 years old, I would have to immediately call someone. Because I would never want to be that 139-pound sick kid again. So if I woke up tomorrow and I was 139 pounds and not 210 pounds, I would have to call someone. I would have to put myself on suicide watch, man, because it would throw me into the deepest, darkest depression ever. Yeah. So happiness is relative.
Yeah, and it's also very interesting that you just mentioned Robbie Williams and celebrities. So a few months back, I sent some photos of me to a modeling agency. And they really liked the photos. They really liked the content. Everything was good. So I kind of signed up with them, and I've been doing some shoots here and there before this whole pandemic, which we cannot discuss because this will be on YouTube. I was doing.
Yeah, I'm good.
a little.
People will take it and turn it political anyway, so we're
Yeah,
good.
exactly. I was doing like modeling shoots and stuff, going to New York, taking photos, and then they were just like, yeah, we can get into the whole acting and stuff like that. And me, for one, being in that community that everyone is just so fascinated by was a little weird, because I don't really have any celebrities to look up to. I don't necessarily look up to celebrities. I just watch movies because they're cool. But I don't necessarily like, hey man, I like the celebrities, great. I don't like feel the need for them to like inspire me. So when they were like asking me questions, do you not know who was in this movie, who was doing that, I'm like, I don't. I felt out of place, because all my life I focus on just one thing, me, and then my family, and then those around me. I have no reason, no desire to focus on celebrities, because they have almost no impact in my life. So when they were asking me, like, do you know who was this in the movie, who was in that, who was like this, do you watch the news, do you watch gossip and dramas or something? I'm just like, no, dude, I don't do this stuff. I don't. And till this day, my agent's still kind of like flashing me here and there. But like the interesting thing that I've noticed, I hope he doesn't see this, but I have noticed about celebrities and how they make it big from what he's been trying to kind of like get me to do. Yeah. And they push these celebrities to literally to a point where they have to be desperate. They have to basically lose everything that they have and be completely desperate about like where they want to be, where like the idea of being famous is their only way in life. It's I forgot what the saying is. It's like you hit something or whatever. But like it seems that they put them in such a position where they're just desperate, because from what the stories that he's been telling me about certain celebrities and from where they were, I don't think I know any celebrities who basically just had everything they wanted in life and then they were like, just be a celebrity. It's always like a tragic backstory.
I agree. I think a lot of people, I think most people, especially nowadays, right? Because it's so easy to open up your phone and you can go to anyone, right? Like so we can go to you. We'll use you for an example, right? Come to you and you see someone that competes in bodybuilding. You see this dude with this great physique, you know what I mean? And instantly a lot of people, these modeling level photos and stuff, right? All of a sudden people will get this idea in their head that that's all you do. Yeah. And that's all you're about. And you don't have any struggles and trials and tribulations. And they have no, like, I guarantee that, you know, I don't know how many people follow you or whatever, but like, I would imagine a large percentage of them don't know that you're from Africa.
Well, that's true. That's very true.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's such a little, everything that we know about most people, especially celebrities, is so surface level. It's so limelight, right? Like, you don't see the nitty gritty. You don't see the background stories. You know, it's like, what's his name? Is it Tim Allen, the dude from Tool Time? You know who that is?
I don't know who that is. Back to what we're speaking about, not knowing celebrities are.
Right. Okay. So, well, here I'll tell you why I know who this one is. Right?
Okay.
So I think it's Tim Allen. I could be saying the name wrong. I'm not sure. But anyway, there's a show way back in the day called Tool Time, and the only reason I knew about this was because I remember way back in the day, my dad was a drug dealer, so I remember saying something about this show, and my dad being like, "Yo, so you know that guy that you were just talking about?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, he went to prison for trafficking cocaine. And I'm like, and then how did he become famous? He's like, he didn't know. He didn't have the right answer. But like, I always thought about that in my, even to like right now sitting here, I was probably 7 or 8 years old when he told me that. Yeah. But I thought about that shit. I'm like, you never know, because he's a comedian, right? And like in this show, he was a wholesome dad.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like look what's his name? Bill Cosby, right? Like everyone is so appalled by what he's been accused of because he's played such this wholesome role, right? And that's who we view.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
It's such a surface level view of everyone, this wholesome person that you see. Mr. Huxtable, that's what his name. Mr. Huxtable was who Bill Cosby was, right? Like Bill Cosby was doing some wild shit. He's not Mr. Huxtable, you know? That's just like this, I think it's Tim Allen. I think that's like this dude that was on Home Improvement, the dad. He's was trafficking cocaine before he was an actor, you know? Like, you never know the background. You never know what people go through. You have to get to know people to really understand them. And there's so many of us, it's so hard to do that.
But it's also very hard to do because the idea of like social interaction has decreased dramatically. And people just nowadays are just scared to even like open their mouths and like talk to them like, hey, how are you? And then get the conversation going. And that specifically makes it hard to know people because like now your only profile of those you interact with, whether it be in person or like on the internet, is through a social media platform. And that doesn't really do that much.
No,
really gauge
it's not. No, it doesn't do that much. Let me ask you this. Do you, so first question is, do you tend to date within your age range or up or down?
Up and down.
Up and down. Okay, so kind of all over the place. Are you finding, because you're quite a bit younger than me, are you finding that it's becoming more and more difficult from a communication standpoint to date?
Yes, it is. And I'm going to explain why.
Yeah.
That it's, I've done the whole hooking up thing and stuff like that. But I think also before you even engage like a dating relationship with someone, like there has to be that communication. But nowadays people can't really communicate with you because they're so distracted by like so many different options that are available out there that they can just pick and select from whatever they want. So the communication is just like you don't always have people's attention at 100% because there's just so many different distractions. You can never really like keep their attention where it needs to be because they have those other options available. So that's one of the reasons. And from the communication standpoint as well is that when you do go on dates, I think women tend to be very shy. They always are, which is back to one of that posts that you made where like they never fully interact with the men first. To, like get them going and like have a conversation go. It's always like the guy that's always like engage in the conversation, making sure the conversation stays stable and maintains it, and then be able to increase attraction gradually over time during that interaction, the conversation. Because if you're talking to a girl and you have nothing to specifically offer that is worthful for their survival of like why they want to date you or be with you or have them be have you be as like that option, they're just gonna be like, okay, well he was boring, but I do have 50,000 other guys I can pick from. I'll just go pick from them. Yeah. So there's that. And also, once I do have this individual from a dating perspective, once I'm dating them, I mean, I don't necessarily like focus a lot on the person, but I'm going to explain why. Is that I know people need space. I know people have other things that they got to do, and I don't want them to have to be like kind of like hammering them all the time. So honestly, what I ask for if I'm like with someone and I'm dating someone, it's just like, if you're busy, just let me know. And if you're too busy and you can't respond to a text, and just be like, hey, I'm a little busy, but I'll text you whenever I can. It's be able to follow your words with your action. And once I realize that they don't really follow their words with their action, I'm just like, all right, peace. Because they can't even do something as simple as that. The lack of communication going forward would just be so terrible, and eventually just get to a lot of like fights, a lot of arguments, because there's always that miscommunication with interpersonal relationship that you can't really like, interact with them on such a interpersonal level. So that's basically what I have for communications.
Right. Yeah. So I totally agree. I have found that, especially because I tend to date, most of the time I tend to date younger, well, always, because I don't date anyone older than me. I haven't, at least yet. I probably won't. But I do notice that as well, is that the communication with the younger generation tends to be a bit less polished. I think that's two things. I think thing number one is just time. It's reps and time. I definitely was not a good, when I was your age, I definitely didn't have the communication ability that you have. Like I think it just even in speaking ability, I didn't have that level of communication. I still had some like aggression in me as well. So my communication would turn from, if let's say it was a male to female interaction, it would turn from me hitting on someone real quick to me being aggravated real quick.
And fear of rejection.
Yeah, basically what, that deep rooted thing of like, well, fuck, like the strikeout kind of feeling, you know what I mean? And when I had that strikeout feeling, that was something that was very difficult because I wear my emotions on my sleeve. Like I'm not one to hide my emotions at all. That was something that it was very difficult for me to to hide away, and I did not have the tools, the communication tools yet, to either steer the conversation in another direction, and I wasn't assertive enough yet to not allow this individual to know that I was bothered by the fact that they weren't, into the conversation or whatever the case was. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So I've noticed that, now that there are a lot of people that are probably in that same boat, but that same boat is such a much worse boat now, because even when I was younger, I was still forced to communicate with people like up until my late teens. Now you don't have to really communicate with anyone if you don't want to on a very deep level.
Yeah. Just ignore it.
It can be a very, very surface level thing. But the one thing I do want to tell you about the communication thing, or about differentiating yourself from, let's say it's we're talking about a dating scenario, is that I do find, so two things. Thing number one is, I don't just, like, let's say you're using a dating app or something like that, right? I will always, and I think there's key things that you can look for assertiveness. So what I'll do this to test a couple of times. There's a pro tip. So anyone that's watching this, try this shit out and let me know if it works. Follow me at Phillip Trujillo. So do this. Let's say it's a dating app scenario, or even messaging, Facebook, DM, whatever. I will give my number to the person first.
Oh, I see. I do that too.
If they text me, I say, hey, let's go grab coffee. Here's my number. Shoot me a text. Let's set it up. If they text me, instantly, that individual is assertive.
Yep.
You know that they have,
and they're willing to pursue it further because
correct. They had the gusto to text you first. They had the gusto to say something, right? If they don't text, I'll never text. Yeah, we might have a surface level conversation after that. We might continue on some DMs, but like, my effort going forth is going to be so little, because I like A-type female personalities. I like assertive females. I like strong females that will communicate and say what they want. And so I don't want to even deal with someone that wasn't willing to even fucking text me first. Like, really? That's some simple shit.
Yeah, it's basic. It's basic.
It's basic shit. And it doesn't just have to do with dating. Like, I think that's, it could go both ways for men and women. So, both genders, all genders watching this, that goes for anyone. If you're someone that likes assertive people, I try to find, or you could try to find ways to find out how assertive people are. And then once you're in that dating scenario, I think the best way, obviously just be yourself, because I think that's what a lot of people don't do. And that starts a lot of problems with dating. These people tend to try to put on a play or put on an act and pretend that they're something that they're not. And then once you do start dating them and get comfortable with them, they turn into who they really are. And who they really are is someone that you really liked. I see that happen quite a bit. That definitely happened to me, unfortunately, in a marriage scenario. So
yeah, I've had a few of those experiences, and it's because of that I actually learned on the patterns of who I date. So back to that conversation we said about like giving your numbers out. I somewhat understand women's psychology. Yeah, and I tend to like play on that, because I tend to understand that like women never like really approach for us to like give their number out unless you ask them and stuff like that. So occasionally there's been some few times, like you said, if you find someone and if they're generally interested in you, they will make the initiation to like push for the conversation, get to
real quick. Do you think that women not wanting to pursue or ask for a number or approach, do you think that is biological, or do you think that's a society primed mentality?
Biological.
Okay, cool.
It's just it's biological, but due to the fact that we communicate nowadays, that seems to be the way they can either be a little bit more vocal or not vocal, because we have our phones and calling and stuff like this. I remember, like, I would say, like, back in the day when we had like phone call and we call like people and stuff, the girl's generally interested in you and they want to pursue, they'll call you, they won't text you, they'll call you. But nowadays it's more of like they'll text you. But like, if a girl back into like the 60s or the 90s and they're interested in you, they will do whatever it takes to go see you. So the idea has always been, from a biological perspective, that men chase because sex is a lot more appealing to men than a man's sexual presence is. in terms of like the dating pool,
Mhm.
sexual presence from a woman's perspective is a lot more valuable than a man's
Okay.
sexual presence. So men have always been the ones to chase, whether it just means to kind of go to hunt, go look for food and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The women, like if you were to go all the way back to like the Stone Age or whatever, the women really, like, I would say men, even in the animal kingdom, men do certain things to attract females.
Yep.
And females, literally, not to sound like a dick, they don't have to do much. They
Yeah.
really,
Well, especially in the animal kingdom, right? Like
yeah,
you see that
especially the
in the animal kingdom.
animal kingdom. I think
Yeah.
that's where the biological idea came from, because in the animal kingdom, then also going to like the early primate years, they didn't necessarily do much to go after a
Hmm.
male, so there was no reason for them to, because the men always had to come to them, because at the end of the day, it's the men that do seek more sexual attraction. But nowadays it's different, because we have the ability to be able to think in a way where we can kind of get away from that animalistic aspect of it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
be able to apply like, oh, I really like this person, I should probably chase this person. But it also tends to come with the fear of rejection, and women
Yeah.
take rejections a lot more, like, I don't know the word, they take it to heart a lot
Do you
more
think so though?
than,
Really?
I think it goes both ways, but
Bro,
women,
because I'm terrible at it. I'm
really,
fucking the worst at rejection. Oh, I'm terrible.
yeah, I've learned to deal with that. I was just like, if somebody rejects me, I'm just like, okay.
I don't like it. I'll be honest, man. I don't like it. I'm not a fan at all.
You have to be able to like it, because you have to be
I
able
don't
to.
like it.
Well, the good thing about being rejected is it makes you better. The more
For sure.
rejected you get, the better you'll be able to like work on the certain skills that, like, when you know somebody rejects you, you'll be able to understand your worth a lot more than when you don't really have anything to work with. Like,
Yeah.
like if they reject you, you have no reason, you don't know why. You're like, oh, what did I do? What did I do wrong? But if you've been rejected so many times, the practice just comes the natural thing to be like, okay, I guess it's their loss.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe that's why then. Maybe you kind of hit the nail on the head then there, because I was so used to being rejected from the time I can remember as a kid until my mid to late 20s. Like my life was filled with rejection. So I feel like I have removed enough items that were rejectable.
You never
So
really.
that if I get rejected now, I'm like, what the fuck am I being rejected for?
I think what it is, you have to be able to. At this point, you're old enough to understand who you are as a person, that you're not who you are back in your 20s, that you have a lot more value to offer. You have a good job, you are smart, and you do things that a lot of men wouldn't even do, because men today are just fucking lazy. They don't have any desire to pursue what they want. So if you understand all those things that you do have as an individual, and a woman rejects you,
Yeah.
you know most women aren't really offering much when you think about it. So there's no reason to beat yourself down, because you know you have all this success, all these life experiences that you've had with you. You have clients, you have a job, you're living, whether you have a house or not, you have a great living, everything is good. So like if a woman rejects you for you just being the best version of yourself, that isn't your fault. That is their lack of insecurities and not understanding what it's like to have a good man. If that makes sense.
You know what's crazy right now is, for me, I have noticed that, like, and this hasn't been for a few months now, but let's say 6 months ago, 8 months ago, there were some instances where I was rejected in scenarios, and for the first time in my life, I was like, I think that shit was based on my age. You know what I mean?
Oh, probably.
Yeah, I was like, fuck, man, that's not a good feeling, because I just got to a point where, like, and I don't mean to sound any certain way about this at all, but like I've just gotten to a point where, like, I don't know, like I'm pretty fucking confident dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like, yeah, like I'm pretty confident fucking dude. If there's something wrong, like I already identified it. You know what I mean? Like I already know. It's not like there's these unknowns of things that I have wrong or things that I need to work on. The shit I need to work on, I pretty much already know.
Yeah.
So like the confidence is so high that I'm like, now there's something in play that I have no control over. You know, and so that's kind of been the big thing for me. I'm like, fuck, like, I think I got rejected based on age on that one. You know?
Could be. You never know.
To be completely honest, I'm like, I think that I told, because my roommate's like my best friend. I told her, I'm like, I think I got fucking shot down because I'm too old.
Yeah.
She's like, no. And I'm like, dude, yes. Like, I think I got shot down for the very first time, being too old. Not good. Not good. I just got this whole shit figured out. Now I'm getting shot down again. So
it's always a constant lesson. You're always constantly learning and improving.
oh, that's it. Oh,
yeah.
every day. Yeah.
So
you learn to live until the day you die.
Yeah, exactly. And that's quite essential. Yeah. You did compete in men's physique, right?
Yeah. I started competing in men's physique in 2017. Well, 2017 was my first show.
How was that? How'd you do?
It was fun. I got second place in the novice class. There was 4 of us, so it wasn't a big class, but I still, even if I would have gotten last place, the fact that I did it and stepped up there was kind of like, it was the new thing for me. It was completely new to me. I was comfortable in front of an audience because I had some speaking gigs when I was in the military, and I coach classes in my CrossFit gym. So I have no problem public speaking, to nutrition seminars, stuff like that. So I have no problem in that scenario or being in front of a crowd, but being in front of a crowd that's also judging your physique for the very first time was something, and mind you, coming from a place of where in my head, I've never thought my physique is that great in the first place. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was a new experience for me, and it was very fun, and it was very fulfilling. And the thing that I noticed the most was backstage. And I was like, I fucking like this environment.
Everyone was supported.
Oh, yeah. Not even the support, just the people back there. I was like, these are all of us have some very same things, the very similar things in common, right? We've all been suffering. We all train. We all like the same shit. We're all here to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Rarely can, especially for people like you and I, rarely can I walk into an environment and feel like everyone in this room kind of understands what's up. You know what I mean? Especially because like where I'm at right now, like the environment that I'm in right now, like my roommate's a bikini competitor. One of my other close friends that we spend almost every single day with, she's a bikini competitor as well. And so we're 3 of us that are kind of the anomalies in our group. But like the group that I'm a part of now, most of them are still like into CrossFit, or a lot of them kind of do yoga, or they just do movement stuff, and they're, into spirituality. So that is kind of something that's not fully accepted because they don't understand, like, why do you care about how you look so much? I'm like, because it's part of the fucking sport. Because it's part of what I compete in, Yeah, so that constant strive for having a better physique isn't always accepted, people will look at it as like something that you're obsessed with, or it's vain or whatever. And I'm like, it's the sport though. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, like, there are definitely benefits. There are benefits to having a quality physique. You know what I mean? Not only social benefits, but mental benefits, benefits a lot of other things. For me, I think it keeps, like I said, I kind of battle with depression fairly severely. And when I'm happy with the way I look and training's going well, and, I feel good while on prep or not even on prep, like, it keeps my mind healthy. It keeps my mind in the right place. It keeps my focus up. It keeps my happiness level higher. And not everyone understands that. But when you're backstage, every fucking person back there understands that. And it's a beautiful environment to be a part of.
Yeah. And I think that's initially why I've been like, continue competing. Because being able to work through all that and then just going backstage, everyone's so supportive. And my Instagram is actually, it's weird, but the people that follow me are a lot more supportive than people that I know in real life.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
No, 100% makes sense.
Because like in real life, it's just literally just me in terms of bodybuilding competition. Like I think it was like that for everyone, but like, I go through prep alone. I go through like the struggles, everything else I have to go through and stuff like that. But the only people that ever do try to keep me level-headed and level-grounded is when I post certain stuff on social media and everyone's just like, Paul, you're doing a great job. I'm just like, okay, cool. This is great. Yeah. So it's because of them that I did North America's last year. And literally that was like the prep I basically did the entire thing like alone by myself. Nobody else was there to help me. The travel, went there alone, nobody was there. But the idea that there are people out there who support you from such a far social distance was enough to keep me going and just do the best that I could to kind of just finish up. Because not to sound like I hold myself very highly accountable of like things I do, well I do, but I think that came out wrong, is
Yeah.
that, like, they hold me accountable for what I do in terms of like
Yeah.
competitor and bodybuilding, because they look up to me as a way of like, you're someone with really great physique. If you do really well, you can probably make it really far in a sense. And I just try to live up to that standards. And then I just do my best because I know they're still supportive of what I do. So that's kind of why I do all this. It's actually for them in a sense, to give them like a different perspective. And I used to give out like training advice and stuff like that. I realized like nobody was really paying attention. I mean, people did pay attention, but it was just like, I didn't like the fact that like if I had to post a shirtless picture of myself, it would get a lot more likes than me giving advice. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just do something different. And that's why I came up with this, whereas it's like now people can like kind of share other people's experience, be a little bit more relatable with them if they do have a chance to sit through this entire thing. There's a lot of value in doing stuff like this so that many people can learn. And it's why I started, because like, again, going back to like the people that follow me on social media, I want them to be able to be the best version of themselves, whether that just be through the gym, mentally, spiritually, or any of those stuff. As long as like they strive towards being better every day, it's a lot more beneficial to me.
For sure. And I think you hit the nail on the head saying that it is a support system. You know what I mean? Like, while if you look at it from the outside looking in, because I think your audience definitely on Instagram especially is a lot larger than mine. But from the outside looking in, like, you're the leader of this group of people that are following you, and this group of people that are looking up to you. And you're probably the same. I have probably 10 or 15 people that I know that I don't know personally, right? That maybe I've never met before, maybe I've only talked to once or twice, whatever. But that I know for a fact that I could DM them if I have, like, hey, if I'm in a fucked up headspace, or I need to bounce an idea or something like that. You know what I mean? There are so many people that are going to be there to support you. So it's like this virtual support system, right? And this virtual support system just keeps becoming even more virtual, right? Like, think about what we're doing right now. Like, obviously we're up, across the country from one another, but imagine if this quarantine thing was something that was completely mandated. Like, this would be how you and I would have to talk about things. Like, let's say I was your client and you were my client. Like, this is the level of interaction that we would have to have, that we would be forced to have. And we've already started to create these environments for ourselves where some of our biggest supporters are people we've never even met before.
Exactly.
And also on the flip side of that, some of the biggest fucking haters are people you never met before. Yeah, because I've experienced that too.
Yeah, I don't think I have much haters per se. I present myself in a way where I don't really, I just give everything I have. I'm goofy. I like watching anime. I like playing video games. I work out. I like posting stupid shit. I like doing whatever the hell I want. I basically, like, what I am in person. This is kind of what I am on social media.
And that's me too. The difference is I talk about sex and drugs and religion and spirituality. And I don't talk about politics and religion like in the mainstream ideas, but I challenge the normal mentality around those things. And that gets people fired up. And I don't do it strictly to fire people up. I do it to attempt to give people that I think are kind of on that cusp of doing their own thinking,
push them over the edge a little.
I try to let them see a little bit more. That's like my post today. I'm surprised that it didn't get more engagement with people not necessarily agreeing. But in my head, or at least for myself, I'm going to tell myself, well, I did a good enough job writing the copy to where anyone that had any question or had would have something questioning what I was saying, it would have been answered in the copy that was written. You know what I mean? So if I do a well enough job on doing the copywriting portion of it, it should answer any questions that anyone is going to have to ask what I'm saying. If they have a reason, like, for example, I talk about polyamory fairly often. And the one thing that happens to me the most is people that will be extremely anti-polyamory. The question I'll ask them is like, well, have you ever been cheated on? And the question 99% of the time is, well, yes. And I say, okay, well, cool. You were essentially in a polyamorous situation without your consent. So would you rather be in a situation where you had consent and you were consenting and you had knowledge of it, or would you just continue to be in a situation where you didn't have knowledge or consent of it? And they're kind of left speechless, because how do you answer that? Of course you want to have knowledge of it. Of course you want to consent to anything that's going to happen to you, right?
Yeah.
So if someone's anti-polyamory but they've been cheated on, it doesn't make sense to me why they're anti-polyamory.
Interesting. It's a pretty interesting perspective to
Yeah.
I never actually thought about it that way. I'm not like full on monogamous kind of guy. I don't really have like a specific, I don't really want to fall between I mean, I guess I do, but like
I think every scenario is pliable. I think every scenario is every scenario will play out how that scenario was supposed to play out. Right? Like I have had obviously multiple monogamous relationships, and then I have had multiple non-monogamous scenarios. So, and I think every scenario will play out how it's supposed to play out. And if that scenario is not supposed to play out non-monogamously, then it will vanish. It will disappear. It was not supposed to happen that way anyway. I don't think you can force things to a certain degree. I'm more willing to invest time and effort in attempting to push someone over that edge that I think would benefit from being pushed over that edge. But I don't want to make someone do something that they don't want to do. If someone doesn't want to do it, I can almost always tell. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be, it could be doing psychedelics. It could be polyamory. It could be CrossFit. It could be bodybuilding, whatever it is, right? Like I will push people to their absolute discomfort level without making them do something that they don't genuinely want to do. Because most people are just scared to try shit. It's not that they don't want to do certain things. They're scared to try things. You know what I mean? Like think about it when you're a kid, right? Your first sexual experiences. You really want to do that shit, but you're scared. You were scared. You know what I mean? You're scared until you do it, and then it's like, oh, I like that. You know what I mean?
It's also like a societal thing too.
Yeah, it's you really enjoy, or you're really against doing certain things until you take that first step and actually do those things. I think for a lot of people, especially if there's veterans are going to be watching this, or there's anyone that battles with depression or anger issues or any of that, and they're really anti-psychedelics for some reason. I'm personal experience here. I would say definitely look into it. Not just something, don't go down to the street corner and buy some shit and then just eat them and freak out. Like do your research and look into it a lot. But that is the unlock and the way forward and the way to open your mind to see things from a much greater perspective than I think people realize.
Hopefully nobody gets to the end of this, but I think I actually just bought a few made with Molly.
Cool. Good. Good.
But if they make
MDMA is a great thing. It's great for multiple things. It's great.
It all goes back to the idea of like trying something different. I've never done it before, but if I would, it's something like I want to try it, and if I try it and I like it, I'll do it. But I wouldn't do it all the time. I would just do it as like a way to be like, okay, this is what it's like. If I don't personally like the way that it feels, I just don't do it.
Yeah,
because I have no.
Maybe we'll talk more. We'll talk more personally about how to go about that. I've got some good tips for you.
Awesome, perfect. With that said, is there any particular advice or anything you'd want to give the audience that have made it this far? Something they can kind of take away from all of this. I mean, they can learn, something they can apply, something that would kind of have them be motivated to kind of just, I guess.
110%. So the audience is going to be mostly a fitness-based audience. I will say if you are someone that is thinking about, and it doesn't matter what modality of fitness is, it could be bodybuilding, powerlifting, CrossFit, whatever it is, whatever you are doing, just remember that you are not going to be an expert at that overnight, right? Like you are not going to be a professional bodybuilder in 1 year. You're not going to be the world's strongest man in 1 year. You're not going to be the CrossFit Games champion in 1 year. Whatever you're doing is going to take time. It's going to take consistency. It's going to take dedication to get to where you want. As far as physique goes, I am nowhere near where I want to be. But I know these these small increments of improvement and progress, whether it's in my posing, my physique, my training, my nutrition, my supplement protocol, no matter what that is, making small adjustments that keep moving me in the right direction, get me closer and closer to these goals. So don't expect results overnight. Work hard and adhere to your programs. I think a lot of people don't get the results they want, especially when we're talking about nutrition and fitness. They don't get, when it comes to weight loss or putting on muscle or whatever, they don't get the results they desire because they veer away from the protocol that's prescribed to them much too soon. You have to trust the process and you have to put in the work.
Awesome. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I appreciate this entire thing. And this was actually pretty much an eye-opener. And I love the engagement back and forth. So it definitely did teach me a lot. And
good. I'm glad, man. I'd love to do it again.
Yeah, we'll definitely get another time where I can get some people out here and talk a little bit more like